Hey guys, it's Aaron here. Today I wanted to go through how to do some quick calculations to see whether your product idea's got commercial viability. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, let's say you're in a scenario where you're sitting out with a few friends or someone who comes up with an idea and a few of you think, oh, that's really cool. Let's do it. And in that situation, what you want to do is do a really quick sanity check with it to see whether it's going to fly at all before you spend too much time on it. So what we're going to do today is go through the steps to do a back of the envelope sort of calculation for commercial viability of a product. And as an example, I'm going to use a product I've got here. It's a indoor temperature and relative humidity sensor, and we'll just use that as an example in our calculations. So let's get into it. I guess the first step we want to do is let's split it into two main categories. We want to evaluate the market from one side and the technical costs from the other side. Looking at the market, we've got two things we want to answer. We want to figure out what the size of the market is, and also what the price point of the device is. So how much we're going to sell the device for. Starting with the size of the market, well, this is an indoor temperature and relative humidity sensor. Let's try to figure out how many potential households would buy it. Starting off, let's assume Australia. I know you should think much bigger than that, but for the calculations, let's just restrict it to Australia. Australia's got about 25 million people. The population is 25 million in size. Let's estimate that each household's got 2.5 people in it, so we've got about 10 million households. Now we need to figure out of those 10 million households, how many would want to buy one of these. An easy way of doing it is just look around your group of friends, think about what percentage of them would buy it. For this exercise, let's say it's 5%. So 5% of your 10 million houses are potentially going to be customers. So 10 million times 5%, you end up with 500,000 potential devices sold. Now this is your total addressable market. So if you owned 100% share of the market, you'll get to the 500,000. But that's not going to be achievable for you. And let's take baby steps. Let's make an assumption that in the first 3 years, your market share is going to be 1% for each one of those 3 years. So that would end up as 5,000 units for each year. Another thing we didn't mention is the price point. Now it's not easy determining the price point. There's a lot of factors, but as I mentioned, these are all rough estimations. The best way of doing it is potentially look at competitor devices or devices that look similar or have got a certain feel or certain value provided to the customer. In this case, we're going to go for a nice easy number of $25. The next part we need to focus on is the product development and the technical part. How much is it going to cost to design this, tool up for it, and then how much is it going to cost per unit to produce? The first part, and before going into any more detail, let's try to split this up into functional or manageable parts. Now, from a functional point of view, there's probably a bit of electronics in here, a bit of embedded software, so firmware for the LCD, and there's also industrial design and an enclosure around this. So splitting up into three parts, the electronics, let's estimate about $10,000 for R&D as a fixed cost. Firmware, there's probably about $5,000 in cost for the graphics and programming, all that. With the enclosure, let's estimate about $10,000 for the mechanical sort of industrial design of this. With the enclosure, we'll make some assumptions. It's probably going to be injection molded. There's a tooling cost associated with that. Let's whack a $25,000 tooling cost on top of that. Now, in terms of variable costs, how much is each unit going to cost at sort of those quantities? We're talking about, let's say there's $9 in electronics and about $1 in the enclosure. Now, something I'm keeping out for now is the packaging of the device. Total fixed cost, $50,000. Total variable cost, a nice even $10. The next step is to find out your break-even point. It's the point where the number of units sold, or it's It's a calculation to find out the number of units that we need to make and sell to break even. So that's when your sales equals your costs. So sales, that's an easy equation. It's 25 times the number of units, while the cost is the $50,000, which is your fixed cost, plus 10 times the number of units sold. We find out the number of units that we need to make to break even is 3,333 units, which according to our market assumption is that we would sell it in the first year. So far this is looking positive. Because it's looking positive, then you start probably adding some more detail into the calculations. And there's a lot of things that we didn't talk about just to make the calculations much more simpler. Important next things you need to add are marketing costs. These are usually around 20%. You could estimate 20% of the costs are marketing costs. Then you've got sales and distribution, and that takes a lot out of your sale price. There's also facilities, so you've got your office space, your storage space, you're going to probably need a website, there's software, there's licenses, there's certifications, there's, depending on the device, there might be regulatory costs, insurance, you've got legal stuff, company setup, IP, whether it's trademark, patenting, and other agreements that you need to set up. So there's other costs that need to add into. And as you go through your calculations and they're green lights as you go through, you continue to refine and add detail. Hopefully it was useful, and if you've got any questions, just put them in the comments, and also add in the comments any ideas that you'd like to evaluate using now the new knowledge or this simple calculator. Until next time, have fun.